So we're going to just start this chapter. Uh, the weather, climate, and adaptation of animals to climate. So first of all, tell me when you go somewhere, what are the conditions you need to check? Suppose you are going to Himalayan region. Suppose you are going to Jammu areas and Haridwar, Rishikesh, something. So what you will do? You will just pack your bags according to the weather of that area where you're going, right? Suppose you are going to Jammu and Kashmir, so there's a cold. The weather is quite cold there. So what you will pack? You will pack some warm clothes and some jackets for you. And if you're moving to the south region, that is your Bangalore side and Mumbai side. So what you will do, you will actually pack your bag according to the weather and the climate of that particular area where you are moving. So weather and climates are very important factor. Uh, all the animals and plants living in that particular area depends on the weather and climates and how the animals adapt themselves according to the weather. Just now we the summer has started. Before this summer the winter climate was there, so we were adapting ourselves. How we adapt, like if winter is there, so we will wear the warm clothes, will cover our body, okay, and we keep ourselves warm. And when the climate is hot, then we will use the AC, cooler, fans. So in this way, all the animals adapt themselves, and all the animals prepare themselves for the weather and climates of that particular region in which they are moving or in which they are living. So this chapter is all about the weather and climate and how the animals adapt. Okay. So first of all, we need to know what is the weather actually. So, have you ever seen the daily weather reports in the news? There's a weather reports, right? And in that weather reports, what they tell you, when will be cloud, when will be hot, these, and they tell you about the weather and climate of 24 hours, next 24 hours, okay. And on that basis, it will be easy for us to adapt according to that. Otherwise you are going somewhere and you haven't check out the weather report, and suddenly the rain started, that it will be difficult for you. So in that from that particular condition, to prevent that particular condition, the weather reports are there that give you advanced report of the weather, so that you will get prepared for it. Okay, now what is the weather? The day-to-day condition of the atmosphere at a place with respect to temperature, humidity, rainfall, wind speed, etc. is called the weather of that place. What is weather? The day-to-day condition. Weather is a day-to-day condition of what? Of the atmosphere of that region in which you are living. Okay, so, and it also depends upon the temperature, humidity, rainfall, and wind speed. Okay, temperature is very high or very low. The atmosphere is very humid or less humid. Rainfall, wind speed, these all are the condition that tells you about the weather. It is a day-to-day condition. Okay. The temperature, humidity, and other factors are called the elements of the weather. So, what are these? The temperature, humidity, rainfall, and wind speed. These are the elements of that weather. Okay, these are called the elements of the weather. So, if in your exam the question is asked the elements of the elements of the weather will be temperature, humidity, and this wind speed, and these, etc. Okay, the weather of the place changes day after day and week after week. That is why we often say today's weather is hot or today's weather is not hot. Suppose this too humid. Humidity is very high. It is a very hot weather today. it is a rainy weather today. So weather can be changes day to day or week to week or month to month. Okay, so that is why there's a weather report is there on the news, on the newspaper. It will keep you prepared for the upcoming weather. Okay, now weather is a complex phenomena, that is that it can vary over very short periods of time. It can happen sometime that it is a sunny in the morning, but suddenly clouds appear from nowhere. It starts raining heavy. So weather can also change within hours. Suppose you wake up early in the morning, what you see, there's a hot summer reason, and suddenly after 2 to 3 hours the rain started. So you cannot tell, you cannot guess that. So weather can change to within hours, within a day, and with month. Okay, so I have told you what is the weather and the elements of the weather and how weather can change. Now this graph showing the variation of maximum temperature during 03. Okay, it's just a data report which will tell you that in 2006 of the August, the this is the way how weather changes. Okay, this is the graph. Like there's a temperature variation. You can see that on 3rd August the maximum temperature was 26. Now on the very next day the temperature decreased to 23. On 5th the temperature decreased to 25 and 22nd, like this. So day to day the temperature is decreasing or increasing day to day. Okay, so and temperature is the element of the weather. So if temperature is changing, also weather is changing. It is clear from any weather report. So weather report is like this. They are showing the graphs. If you want to know the weather of, suppose you want to know the weather of Mumbai region. So the this kind of graph, the weather report will share you, and you can guess the weather. Okay, that there's special thermometer for this purpose called a maximum and minimum thermometer. Okay, in the previous chapter we have discussed about the thermometer. It measures the temperature. So a clinical thermometer measures the your body temperature. Laboratory thermometer measures the temperature of a particular substance, right? It is used in the laboratory. And weather thermometer, if you want to measure the temperature of the atmosphere, so we have to use the maximum and minimum thermometer. Okay, maximum and minimum thermometer. It is name of the thermometer, that is maximum and minimum thermometer. Why is it called the maximum and minimum thermometer? Because maximum temperature can be maximum. It will measure the maximum temperature and the minimum. In the newspaper, you might have seen that it is written there that today's maximum temperature is this and minimum temperature is this. Okay, so that is why this thermometer is maximum and minimum thermometer. The maximum temperature of the day occurs generally in the afternoon, while the minimum temperature occurs generally in the early morning. Yeah, the maximum temperature obviously the in the very afternoon, midday, it is called. The maximum temperature can be noted from midday, and the minimum temperature in the early in the morning. The very early in the morning means 5 o'clock something. Okay. So all the changes the weather caused by the sun. The sun is the huge sphere of hot gases at a very high temperature. The distance of the sun from us is very large. So all these temperature, the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature and the weather, so depend. It can be depends upon the sun. Okay, because if sun is on the head in the summers, so it will give you the very heat, and this weather will be very hot, and in afternoon there will be very hot temperature. So the maximum temperature is due to the sun, and it depends on the, like, sun is very far away from us, then also its heat affected us. So energy absorbed and reflected by the Earth's surface, ocean, and the temperature play important roles in determining weather at any place. So what are the elements that will tell you about the weather? The sun is the primary source of energy. You all know the Earth's surface, ocean, and the atmosphere. Surface of the earth, oceans, and the atmosphere play important role in determining the weather at any place. If you live near the sea, you would have realized from that the weather at your place is different from that of the place in the desert. So the earth atmosphere, earth crust, that is the earth surface, and the ocean. So these are the factors which is responsible for the weather at any place, and the sun is the primary source of the energy and heat and light. Okay, so if you are living in, the people living in the sea region will face different weather than the people living in the desert region. So weather vary from place to place, and what are the factors that on which weather depends? The factors are the earth surface, oceans and the uh, atmosphere. Okay, so we have discussed about the weather. If there's any difficulty or any terms you want to ask, you can ask. Then we'll move to the climate. Fine. Now we have discussed the weather. Now what is the climate? The average weather pattern taken over a long time, say 25 years, it is called the climate of the place. So what is the major difference between the climate and the weather? That weather is day to day change, and I have told you that weather can also be changed within an hours. Early in the morning the weather was too hot, and after 2 to 3 hours rain started. Okay, so it is the weather, but climate is fixed. Climate do not change day to day or month to month. It is a average weather pattern taken over a long time. It's about 25 years or 30 years. It is the average weather. So in particular area, suppose we are moving to desert regions. So it is the average weather. The average weather of that desert, and how long we will calculate the average? About 25 to 30 years. Okay, so in during the 25 to 30 years, the all the average pattern will be calculated, and that is called the climate of the place. Okay, so in desert region there's always hot, so the climate of desert is hot. Okay, and if we'll talk about the Himalayan region, the climate of that Himalayan region is cold. Okay, if you move to Russia, you will there's a very cold climate there. Okay, and if you move to the desert region, there's a very hot climate. So climate do not change day to day or month to month. It is an average weather pattern. Okay. On the other hand, weather can change. It is day to day atmospheric condition. Okay. So in your exams, the difference between climate and weather will be asked. This question is very important. The temperature at a place high most of the time, then we say that the climate of the time, then we say that the climate of the place is hot. If there is also heavy rainfall on most of the days in the same place, then we can say the climate of that place is hot and wet. So if somewhere you move and there is a hot condition, and also there's a rain every day. Okay, so you can say that that place is hot as well as a wet. That in there's a state called Meghalaya. In that state, very heavily rain takes place, and not even a single day go without rain. So you can say that place it is a wet region, humidity is very high there because daily rain takes place there. Okay. The mean temperature of a given month is found to so, just like you can see the Srinagar, that is Jammu and Kashmir, the Himalayan region, you can see that the mean temperature means the average of all the temperature. We cannot draw the table of one one day temperature. So, average of a week's average of the average temperature is calculated. That is called the mean temperature, and it is given in the graph. I will show you how these vary. So, if you'll see, daily minimum is minus 2.3, and daily maximum is 4.7 of the January region. And if you'll see the June region, that is 14.7 is the minimum, and 29.2 is the maximum. And mean total rainfall you can see that is 37 and 57 of the January region. If you'll move to the Kerala region is quite hot. So in the January also, the minimum temperature is 22. And if we'll move to the Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature of the January is minus 2.3. You can see the difference. So it is what what is it showing? It is showing the climate that Kerala climate is very hot and the Jammu and Kashmir climate is quite cold. Okay. And if we'll see the June temperature, the minimum daily temperature of the Jammu and Kashmir is 14.7. On the other hand, it is 23.5 is the minimum. Okay, so these are the weather climatic chart by you can see the climates of any particular region. If you are moving to the region you never gone there and you don't know about the weather, you can check on the internet on the weather reports. This is the way the chart by chart you can see that on which month the what maximum and minimum temperature is. Okay. Yeah, so all the desert region will be hot like Rajasthan and Gujarat and the Kutch region of the Gujarat. These are the quite desert. And yeah, and the Himalayan region. This is the typical desert climate. It is a hot and dry. If we'll move to the Rajasthan desert, it's a hot and dry. I have told you the hot and dry means the rain is also not there. The raining is hardly takes place, so it is a complete dry area. And if somewhere the climate is hot, fine, but there's a rain also, there's a humidity also, so it will call hot and wet and hot and dry. Okay, so in hot and wet region is northeast region. It is given in the book. Northeast, the climate of northeast is wet. Okay, on the other hand, the climate of the desert is hot and dry. So there's a one activity for you. You have to check the weather of your region in which you belongs. If you belongs to Delhi, just check out 2 to 3 days of the weather reports as well as the climatic conditions. Okay. Then only you can aware about these topics, that is weather and climate. It is quite interesting. You can check, right? Now we'll move to the climate and adaptation. How animals adapt there, how they are adapting in that conditions. So you might have heard that some animals belongs to particular area, not in every area. Like you have heard about the polar bear. Okay, the polar bear is belongs to the cold region, that Himalayan region. You cannot find that polar bear in the deserts or in your north plain area. Okay, so these are the adaptation of the animals, how animals adapt themselves according to the climate of that particular area in which they are living, right? Like yak. Have you ever heard about the yak? The whole body of yak is covered by heavy rain, heavy hairs, and these hairs protect the yolk from the cold climate. Okay, but if York will move and come to the desert, what will happen? It will die because that heavy hair on his body and the climate is very hot. It cannot be adapt easily. Okay, so particular animals belongs to particular area and it depends on the climate of that particular region. Okay, so first of all, the polar region. The polar regions present an extreme climate. These regions are covered with snow and it is very cold for most of part of it. Polar regions are very cold. Okay, and it is all time it is just covered with the snow. For 6 months, the sun does not set at the poles, while for the other 6 months, the sun does not rise. The stimas. For the six whole month, the sun you can't even see the sun. In winters, the temperature can be low as minus 37.7 37 minus 37 degrees Celsius. That much low. Low. Animals living there have adapt in these severe condition. Let's see, polar bears, I have told you, have white fur so that they are not easily visible in the snowy white background. It protects them from their predators. Also, there's one condition, one that polar bear, the white color, so it can protect themselves from the predators. It also helps them in the catching their prey also. To protect them from the extreme cold, they have two thick layers of fur. They have very thick two thick layers of the fur. So, okay, do you really think that these polar bear can live in the desert region? Never. They also have a layer of fat under their skin. There's a layer of fat under their skin. In fact, they are also well insulated. They have to move slowly just. So, polar bear goes for swimming. It is a good swimmer. Its paws are wide and large. So, the body structure, all the body structure of that polar bear or any animals is the adaptation of that animals for survival in that particular climate in which they are living. Okay, why color is white? The reason to prevent from the predator as well as to find out the prey, right? All the two thick layer of fur is there to prevent it from the cold. It is a good swimmer. Why swimmer? Because in Himalayan region when that that snow melts, the water filled everywhere. So it is a good swimmer. The paws are very heavy and broad, so that it can easily swim. So these are the in you can see in the textbook that these are the adaptation. These are the conditions in the polar bear, so that it can live in that cold. That is very cold, minus 37 degrees the minimum temperature. They can live there. So in the syllabus, polar bear is very important, and the question might be asked in the polar bear only. And there are some other animals like your this penguins. Penguins also belongs to cold region. Another well-known animal living in the polar region. Polar region. We are discussing about the polar region. Their temperature is minus 37 degrees Celsius, and about 6 months you cannot see sun. So in the polar region, two animals are very common. There is one polar bear and one is penguin. Okay, so penguins are really very cute if you have seen in the on Discovery Channel. It is also white and merges well with the white background. So all, uh, you know what? Normally, all the animals in that polar regions are white in color. So it also has thick skin, lot of fat to protect them from the cold. You may have seen the pictures of the penguin. Yeah. So now other animals live in that polar region is the fishes, musk, oxen, reindeers, foxes, seals, whales. So the polar region, the animals belongs to the polar region will have white color and with very thick layer of fur and fat. So these are the some adaptation of these animals. Now we'll move to the tropical rainforest, and there are the migratory birds. So what is the reason that these birds migrate from one place to other? To to survive, to survive from the condition. The birds must remain warm to survive. They migrate to warmer region when winter sets in, and they come back after the winter is over. So when uh, when warmer region, when winters goes on, they migrate to the place where the climate is hot, and when the winter season is over, they come back. So these are the called the migratory birds. So very famous migratory bird is the Siberian crane that comes to Siberia, to a place. From Siberia they comes to Bharatpur of the Rajasthan, because Bharatpur of the Rajasthan, the hottest region, the climate there is very warm, and the in Siberia, the climate becomes when too cold, they migrate to the place which prevent them from. So that's it for this chapter. Now we'll move to the next chapter, and also I will share the quiz after that. Okay. So this particular chapter, we have completed the main topics of these chapters, almost all topics. Now we'll move to the next topic, and next topic is, yeah, our next topic is wind, storms, and cyclones. So what is wind? What is cyclone? And what is storms? So in the news or in the newspaper, you might have heard about the cyclone, about the wind, that some particular area hit by the cyclone. Okay. Yeah, heavily the wind, the very warmer wind and very high speed of wind taking place. Okay. So these are, what are these? What are the cyclones? What are the wind and storms? We, we begin with some activities involving air. These activities will clarify some basic features concerning a cyclone. Before we begin, remember that the moving air. So what is the wind, students? Winds are the moving air. Moving air is called the wind. What is the wind? Wind is the moving air. Okay. Yeah. Now, the moving air is called the wind, and the speed of the wind can vary. Like some day, the speed of the wind is very high, and some day it is very low wind speed. So, on which condition wind speed is depends. There are many activities given in your textbooks, and you can do perform at your home. These are the very simpler activities, so that it is a practical examples to read, to know the concept of these chapters, like wind. Blow, high speed winds are accompanied by reduced air pressure. So if you want to check you want to compare the air pressure and the speed of the wind. Yeah. So air pressure, if you we have to compare the air pressure, that is air pressure, and the speed of the wind. What you have to do, just take a simple bottle, just a simple bottle of plastic, and blow the air with your mouth, what you will observe. See, you can see in this picture, after blowing, what will happen? Crumple a small piece of paper uh, into a ball of size smaller than the mouth of an empty bottle. Hold the empty bottle on the side and place the paper ball just inside the mouth. What will happen? Now try blow on the ball to force it into the bottle. Try the activities with the bottles of different sizes. Why different sizes? Because different sizes will have different air pressure, and with the air pressure, how speed of the winds vary, you can see. So you can take the small bottle and then big bottle. So these bottles, after blowing the air pressure and the wind speed, you can check the air pressure and the wind speed, how these varies. Okay. One very short uh, activity I can tell you. Just pour the mug from the bottom side. What will happen? The water will not let in that particular mug. Why? Because there is a pressure. So in the same way, it happens with the air pressure and the wind. See, increased wind speed is indeed accompanied by reduced air pressure. When there is a wind speed increases, what will happen? There will be air pressure reduction. So air pressure is inversely proportional to the wind speed. When wind speed will be high, air pressure will be lower. Okay. So the reason where the air pressure is high to the reason where the pressure is low. When in the area where there is a wind speed is very high, the air pressure will be low, and where the wind speed is low, the air pressure is very high. And air moves from the region where the air pressure is high to the region where uh, the pressure is low, and obviously that air will or wind blow from will move from high pressure to the low pressure. Okay. So high pressure to low pressure means in high pressure the wind speed must be low, and in the lower pressure the wind speed must be very high. The greater the difference in the pressure, the faster the air moves. So speed, I have told you, the speed of the air depends on the air pressure. So when the the air pressure, the difference between the air pressure is greater, the air moves very fast. Okay, suppose the reason where the air pressure is very high and the reason where the air pressure is very low, the difference between the two reasons air pressure is very high, so the wind will move with very high speed. So you can say the wind speed depends totally upon the air pressure. When air pressure is will be high, the wind speed will be low. When air pressure will be low, the wind speed will be very high. Now, with wind speed, is the temperature. Now, next topic is current and generated due to uneven heating on the earth. There's uneven heating on the earth means on earth the heat on the earth is not same everywhere. It is uneven. In some area the heat is very high. Okay, some area is very high heated and some area is very low. So wind currents are generated. Why wind currents are generated? Due to uneven heating. These situations are one, uneven heating between the equator and the poles. You know the equator and the poles. You might have heard geography that yeah, equator. There's a one reason of the Earth is called equator, and there's another reason is called the pole. So uneven heating between the equator and the pole. So wind will move from one place to other. Can move from poles to equator or equator to poles. Depends on the heatiness of the particular regions. The air in these regions get warmer. e- that regions close to the equator get maximum heat from the sun. So equator region of the earth gets maximum heat from the earth. The air in these regions get warm. So when maximum heat will be on equator, so the air or wind of that particular region also gets warmer, right? The warm air rises and the cooler air from the regions in the 0 to 30 degrees latitude belt on either side of the equator moves in. What will happen in equator region? The heat of the sun is very high, so air of that particular region will be also very high. So air will move from that regions in the 0 to 30-degree latitude belt on the either side, okay, of the equator moves in. These winds blow from the north to the south towards the equator. The wind will blow from north region to the south region towards the equator. At the poles the air is colder than that at the latitudes about 60 degrees. So on the equator the air was very warm, and at the poles the air is colder, and there is a difference of how much temperature? About 60-degree temperature. The warmer air at these latitudes rises up, and the cold wind from the polar regions rushes in to take its place. So what will happen? The air will move from equator to the poles and from the poles to equator. Okay, you can see in this diagram the air from the just see now, this is the equator region. The pink color arrows, it is moving from this side and it is moving from this side. So from the equator to poles and then from poles to equator. Now the second condition is uneven heating of land and water. First condition, the uneven heating of land only. In that topic we have included the equator and the poles. Now that is the uneven heating of land and water. In summer near the equator the land warm up faster, and most of the time the temperature of the land is higher than the temperature of oceans. At the equator during the summer season the land gets heat fast, okay, heated up faster, and most of the temperature of that land is higher than that of the water. So in the equator region during the summer the land heats up faster than the ocean. The air over the so when land will heat faster, the air over the land will get warmer faster in comparison to the air above the ocean, right? So what will happen? This caused the winds to flow from the oceans towards the land. Why from the oceans towards the land? Because the ocean's air is less warmer than the land's air. So it, the ocean's air will move towards the land's region. Okay, these are the monsoon winds. What is called? These are the monsoon winds. In winter, the direction of the wind's flow gets reversed. It it flows from the land to the ocean. So in winter conditions, the conditions reversed. Condition reverse. Now the wind speed will reverse its direction. Now the flow of the wind from the land to ocean. In summer, from ocean to land, and in winter, from land to ocean. Okay. The the winds from the oceans carry winter and bring spring. So when during summer, when the air flowing from land to winter, it is called the monsoon winds. And after that, monsoon will start, the rain will start. And during winter, when the direction of the wind reverse, that is, it will flow from wind to land, from it will reverse that land from ocean, it will bring the winter season. The monsoon winds carry water and nutrients. So the question can be asked in your exams, that is how uh, monsoon, what are the monsoon winds? Yeah, how monsoon winds cause? Yeah, how winter and rain cause? So clouds bring rain and give us happiness. Yeah, farmers correctly. Obviously, when there's a rain, the farmers feel so very happy because their crops needs water, and with the help of these rains, the crops will grow faster. Let us study about the situation, that is thunderstorm and the cyclone. What are the thunderstorms and the cyclone? Till now, we have discussed about the wind speed, how wind speed matters. Wind speed depends on the air pressure. Okay, and it will move from the higher air pressure to the lower air pressure. Thunderstorm develops in hot, humid tropical areas like India very frequently. The rising temperature produces strong upward rising winds. These winds carry water droplets upwards where they freeze. Okay. The thunderstorm develops in which condition thunderstorm develops? Obviously, when hot, the region should be hot, humid, and in tropical areas of India. In which areas? In tropical areas of India. The rising temperature produces the strong upward rising wind. When temperature rises, the wind also gets warmer and rises up. Okay, these winds carry, in the winds, that is air, they carry the water droplets, and water droplets also rises upward where they freeze. When they will go upward, na, in upward direction there is a cold region, so the water droplets get freeze there on the upper side, where they freeze and falls down again. And then when they got freeze, now due to gravitation, they will fall down towards the earth. The swift movement of the falling water droplets along the rising air creates lighting and the sound. And when this swift movement is taking place of the falling water along with the rising air, that is called the lightning, and the sound is called the, along the rising of the sun. This event is called the thunderstorm. So how thunderstorm takes place? During hot season, the air rises up, and with air, there is a water droplets. Water droplets go up above the region, and where they got freeze there, and after freeze there, it will falls down due to gravitation on the earth, and with the fall, there is a lightning and sounding condition. So this all events is called the thunderstorm. Okay. How a thunderstorm becomes a cyclone. The water requires heat when it changes from the liquid to vapor pressure. If you have to change the water vapors from liquid to vapor, you will give some temperature. Does the water give back heat when the vapor condenses in the liquid? And when you condense the water vapor into the liquid, there it is an exothermic reaction. It will gives you some heat. Okay. Now, before cloud formation, water takes up heat from the atmosphere to change into vapors. Before the cloud formation takes place, water water will take heat, and where it will get heat from the atmosphere. In the atmosphere, there's a water, okay, and to convert water into vapor state, it requires heat. So water from the atmosphere takes heat from the atmosphere and convert into the vapors. When water vapors changes back to liquid, means condensation of water vapors from the raindrops. After the when water converted into vapor, now vapor will condense again into the water in the form of rain droplets of obviously. This heat is released into the atmosphere, and these all these activities taking place in the atmosphere only. The heat released in the atmosphere, the water has taken the heat from the atmosphere to convert into the vapor state, and after when it get condensed into the water state again, it will release the heat back to the atmosphere. Okay, it has taken the heat from atmosphere, now they are releasing the heat when they are condensing. Okay, the heat released in the atmosphere, now when the heat will release from the water vapor, what will happen? The atmosphere in the atmosphere, heat will generate or everywhere, and the atmosphere gets warmer. The air tends to rise and cause a drop in pressure, so air will move upward. Air will rises as the atmosphere is warm now, and will cause a drop in pressure. More air rushes to the center of the storm. This cycle is repeated, and this cycle is going and going on. The chain of events ends with the formation of very low pressure system with very high speed of wind. I have told you, when the speed of the wind is high, the pressure of the air is low. So these the cyclic events will form the low pressure. The system will be in low pressure, and the speed of the wind will be very high. And this is called the cyclone. Cyclone, you can see, it is just like, in the circular way. The wave is running in the circular way. Factors like wind speed, wind direction, temperature, and humidity contribute to the development of the cyclone. How cyclone formed, I have told you, and the factor is which playing a major role in the cyclone is wind speed, wind direction, temperature, and the humidity. Okay, you can see in the picture. This is the cyclone. How this cyclone takes. Yeah, and this is the reason of the cyclone. The image of the eye, the middle portion is called the eye of the cyclone, the very middle piece. Okay, now time's up, and we have completed almost the important topics of the chapter. Okay, so I will give you the quiz now, and you have to answer all the questions. Now that's it for today. In the next session, in the fifth session, we will take up the new two topics that is the preceding chapter of this NCERT book only. So till now, bye, good night.